We wanted to talk the Utah Jazz because this could be a finale for them when it comes to the duo of Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert, when it comes to Quin Snyder as coach, potentially. And they're coming into this playoff, so they're finished as the 5th seed. They'll take on the Mavs. They could get very lucky with that Luka injury, but they've been slumping of recent time. They're 4-7 in their last 11 games, and some of these losses that they've had are downright appalling. So they gave up, in those 7 losses, they've given up 15-point or more fourth quarter leads to the Golden State Warriors, the Phoenix Suns, and the LA Clippers. So that's 3 losses out of those 7 where they all led by 15 or more in the fourth quarter of those games. Incredible. They led by 25 in the first half, early in the third quarter, I should say, in that Clippers game that I spoke about. They led by 11 in the first half v Dallas and then went on to lose. They led by 7 in the first half to Brooklyn and went on to lose. They lost to the Celtics by 28 in this period. It's not been pretty, and their ability to choke games down the stretch. I don't know how in an 11-game period you have 3 losses where you led in each of them by 15 or more in the fourth quarter. That's incredible. That must be some kind of record in that. It was basically in a 10-game stretch. It has to be some kind of record. So what do you make of the Jazz? And has your opinion changed as a result of the Luka injury?
No. I'd have to give it. So I sit on the fence until I find out, I guess, how serious this Luka injury is. But you and I have been sellers on the Utah Jazz for quite some time, actually, more than anything. We didn't like the versatility. We don't think they're incredibly versatile when it comes to the options. The Rudy Gobert liabilities has become one of the funnier memes in the league. But yeah, I didn't. The Jazz are supposed to be a regular season machine. They're not always in the top 10 offense, top 10 defense. But yeah, the fact that they don't really change, and you and I said Donovan Mitchell might be the next disgruntled star. You would have caught that press conference where he goes, I keep seeing the same thing over and over and over again. And we're like, oh God, and the tension obviously between him and Rudy Gobert. I've drawn away a lot of things, but one thing that I think has kind of stood out for me is the Jazz is they haven't really evolved. I criticize Rudy Gobert for a lot of things, but to me, he hasn't really. His offensive game, he hasn't really changed. I know he leads the league in field goal percentage, but in terms of anything else adding to his element in his game, people are laughing how Donovan Mitchell doesn't pass to him in the post. But I don't rarely see any post moves or anything in his regard. Donovan Mitchell is one of my favourite players in the NBA. So exciting. But I'm looking at how Devin Booker has how complete Devin Booker is these days as a basketball player. He's got such a nice game, first and foremost. I'd have to double check on that, but early, halfway through the season, he was like the number 5th or 6th shooting guard in terms of defensive rating. So he stepped up the defensive side to his game. I see those two as very similar players. They're incredibly exciting and franchise altering. You can build around them, but in terms of evolving between those two, I haven't seen anything. I'm sure you can criticize the roster construction and everything like that, or the leaders up. But as your two leaders, what improvement have you seen from those two players as of late? Well, what's something that stood out to you? Like, oh wow, I didn't know. Because Devin Booker, Chris Paul was out for 15 games. They didn't miss a beat. He just took over the ball handling duties and ran that team. He was running the offense. So many other players have developed. But what have you seen from those two that you've gone, wow, they're because they're going to be blamed. Obviously, they'll pick Quin Snyder pretty easy. It's pretty easy to get rid of the coach. That's the first and foremost thing. And then you can just start on your star players. But yeah, how much? I guess I'm kind of asking you, how much blame are you giving onto those two players if you were to split it up?
I'm actually... So, if you had to get rid of one of them and keep one of them, then you're definitely keeping Mitchell, but I think he should be the alpha dog / most important player on the team, and so therefore I'm actually putting a lot of blame on him. And you're criticising Rudy Gobert's game, and especially his offensive game, and we often laugh at his lack of offensive game, his lack of post moves and whatever else. But I'm here to say you can't improve your post moves if your team flat out denies you the ball when you do post up. And that is what I've seen from the Utah Jazz. And the statistics prove that. Donovan Mitchell averages 2 passes per game to Rudy Gobert. Not 2 assists, 2 passes. 2, is that not the most incredible, that's the most incredible stat, hands down, I've seen all seasons. He averages 2 passes a game to Rudy. Not 2 assists, 2 passes. He averages 3 turnovers a game. He's giving the ball more to the opposition than he is Rudy Gobert. And I tell you what, I watched them down the stretch. I watched them down the stretch of that Warriors game where the Warriors came back. And the amount of times, because the Warriors, switching defense and whatnot, the amount of times I saw Jordan Poole switched onto Rudy Gobert. Jordan Poole 6'4" and isn't a good defender. Doesn't play above his size or anything. He just is a flat out pretty average to below average defender. He's getting switched on to Rudy Gobert. Rudy Gobert's 3 feet from the basket, calling for the ball, and they just don't give the ball to him whatsoever. And I'm like, I don't care if he's got no post moves whatsoever. He's 7 foot against a 6'4" guy, 2 feet from the basket. I could go get a random bloke off the street, and if he's 6 to 8 inches taller than another bloke, he should be able to just lay the ball in. It's not that hard. You don't need post moves when you got that kind of height differential. And still, Donovan Mitchell and his Utah teammates will not use him. So yes, you can criticise him for not having a post game. We're not thinking he's going to be out here being Embiid or bloody Hakeem Olajuwon or anything. But when he's open, literally beneath the rim, and he's got a guard switched onto him, give him the freaking ball. Like, honestly, that is good offense. And if he misses it, then we all laugh at Rudy Gobert, and he doesn't get his $200 million next contract. I don't know. You go.
If he had the post-game, I reckon that'd be fitting him. But I think one thing that's also kind of killing them, and I think I've just noticed an element of like teams that are like genuine contenders, your star player has to have some level of playmaking. That it's not just passing. It's not just getting assists, playmaking. I look at the top teams, like the Phoenix Suns and those teams they've all got like a legitimate floor general. Even my Miami Heat with Kyle Lowry, when he's on the court, can be a floor general. Steph Curry can run the offense for you guys. Luka, Joker, Philly have James Harden. Like, you need that floor general guy. And Conley, for as illustrious as his career has been in terms of consistency, he's not a floor general. In fact, I'd really see Mike Conley, to be honest with you. And I think that really hurts them because Donovan Mitchell, like, he sure is not. This pass. I want to know who tracked that passing first and foremost. That's a pretty extraordinary to me. But he's not an elite level playmaker. I'm sure he gets assists, but he's not a playmaker. And I think that really hurts because people like Rudy Gobert, who are running like rim running bigs, they really need like that sort of point, like someone that's got a great pick and roll game, lobs and everything. And I think if Rudy Gobert, let's say you put him in Dallas, I think he would have a great time playing with Luka Doncic. Luka loves those that pick and roll, but just a roll man. And I think that's really hurting the stock. And so what kind of kills me, like, obviously Donovan Mitchell's an incredible scorer, Rudy Gobert's got that incredible defense, but a guy, and that's why I didn't really like the Jingles loss. First of all, I thought it was just a dog act for a guy that's been there for nearly 8 years or whatever it was. You tore his ACL and you threw him into the side of the thing. But he was like, I'd say he's a glue guy, and he had an element. But he had an element of playmaking about him. Like he was a savvy passer, and I think he was a glue guy. And I think they've been hurt by that loss in many ways. So if there was and I would honestly, Jordan Clarkson, to me, he's your only trade piece. If you want to keep those two, I think he's your only trade piece, and I would find a way to get rid of him for something like in return, but. I don't think you need more offense. He's in this great level of where he can have an old 10 game, no one cares, and then when he has his 30-point game every now and then, everyone's like, aha, that's why he's a 6 man of the year. I would find, if you're going to try and go down this path, because you're Utah, you have to get lucky as Utah to get stars down there. If you want to cash in on these two, I'd trade him, and I reckon you could get something back for him. I don't know what sort of point guard would be out there on the market, but yeah, I feel like you're gonna have to have conversations around him if you're going to go down the path with these two.